I kept a lot of that stuff inside and never talked about anything because it was just move on, chunk along, keep the house over the head for your kids and your wife, and that's your responsibility. And that was my focus, and that also was a mistake.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Life with a Cheri on Top. I'm your host, Cheri, and today I am joined by my husband, Kevin.
Hey there.
Hey, handsome.
What's happening, beautiful?
So today we want to talk about, I want to talk about what makes...
I do too.
What makes our marriage work. I will say that it's the second marriage for both of us, which we've talked about before. So let's talk about what we learned from our first marriages that we either apply or don't apply to our marriage.
Yikes. Okay.
I'll start. I grew up in, I think they call it like a WASP family. I don't know why they call it that, but it's like white families that don't talk about anything. Like,
Never heard that.
Really?
No.
Oh, no, it's a thing. I don't know what WASP stands for, but it's a thing. We never talked about, it was brush something under the rug, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So with my first marriage, I did the same, and he did too. After that, I think the biggest lesson learned for me was I'm going to talk about how I feel all the time because it just doesn't work otherwise. At least it doesn't work for me.
Yeah. And you're I know this, but for anybody listening, your parents were divorced as well.
Twice.
Did that have anything, did that have any effect on you?
No, honestly, one time I heard my parents argue in 16 years before their first divorce. Like once.
Yeah.
So I think that further proves my point of everything was just kind of swept under the rug.
Yeah, for sure.
And they, my dad was a cop and worked different hours than my mother, so they weren't together a lot. I was either with my mom or with my dad, and very seldom were we together as a family. I don't know. I don't think it affected me. They then got back together and then divorced again. I think I was 21 at that time.
Yeah.
So how about you?
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure, I was the same growing up. Now, my parents were divorced when I was younger, so my dad left and didn't have that control in the house, I guess, so to speak. And I'm the youngest of four, so
4 boys.
yeah, all four.
Yeah.
All 4 boys.
Your poor mom.
Poor mom.
Yeah.
She put up with a lot, let me tell you, especially those years, right? So, yeah, I mean, good old Irish family. You don't talk about things that are disturbing you or bothering you. You swallow them and you buck up, you rub some dirt on it, and you move on. You
Drink through it.
Yeah, that's the other part of the Irish family, yeah. But it's, I think it was always kind of like that for me. It's just how we grew up. It's like you don't talk about that stuff, especially with your brothers.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Most of you don't share that with your brothers and talk about problems you're having at school or someone's bugging you. You hit them in the face and move on.
See, I didn't have anybody to hit in the face. I was an only child.
Yeah.
So.
Well.
I missed out on the punching opportunities.
Well, you made up for it later in life.
Okay. Thanks.
I think it's really, I think it's the same thing. I mean, you don't, and I don't want to say in those days, we're not like 80, but, back in those days, even not wanting to say it, I did, it was kind of the way that things were. I mean, you went on with life and I was picked on as a kid in school, but it's just, I guess you thought it was normal. And now we realize that's not normal and things are different. So
yeah.
It's unique.
How did your growing up in a divorced family affect your first marriage?
Great question. Because when I first got married, I said, I'm not going to be like my dad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a divorced guy. That's not going to happen to me.
Right.
Well, you didn't realize that you're not really in total control of that. So It's half your problem. It's half your issue. It's half your responsibility. But then there's the other side of things too, that people have to have that same opinion. And I was married very young for my first marriage, so things were moving quickly. We were doing things our friends weren't doing. So we got married at young.
How old were you when you got married?
21.
21.
Yeah,
wow.
right.
Okay. I was 26.
Yeah, that's probably in those years probably better. I mean, we were kids, so, but we were maturing quickly in our jobs and moving in a different direction. Most of our friends anyway, so it kind of fit the bill and worked to both of our advantages, and we both obviously agreed to be married. So,
And how long before you had kids?
so we had 5 years
Okay.
alone before we had our kids. Yeah.
Nice. What did you learn from the first marriage that you either implement or don't implement in our marriage?
Certainly, number one, like you said, I think you and I can communicate about anything. We talk about whatever's on our mind, whether I
Always.
know it's going to upset you or not.
Right.
I'm not going to hold that in.
Right. Me too.
That changes who I am. It changes how I act. It changes how I react. It changes everything that I'm doing, not only to you, but to my friends, to my work, to everything. And
Yeah.
I think that's what was a big issue, is I kept a lot of that stuff inside and never talked about anything, because it was just, move on, chunk along, keep the house over the head for your kids and your wife, and that's your responsibility. And that was my focus, and that also was a mistake. I didn't really learn what to do correctly, I think. I mean, I was definitely just trying to, like I said, I was working hard. My main thing was to keep everybody happy and keep money coming in so that people can do and we can do what we wanted to do. But I didn't focus on myself, or specifically even my ex-wife. It was just kind of like, hey, I gotta go. I gotta do this. I gotta get moving. I gotta go to work. I gotta, and it was just a run and gun. And I thought that was the right thing that would make everybody happy. But, in the long run, we didn't share enough information. We didn't share enough time together. We didn't share the same interests after a while, because, I'm running around traveling and working, and she's doing her thing, and everybody drew a different interest.
Yeah. Kevin has traveled and continues to travel, just for the record, all of the time for work, which I don't have a problem with. I don't know if she did or not, but
I don't think initially. I mean, it was difficult because there was times I missed, our son's first ball game, or the daughter's first words or steps or birthdays.
Right.
That stuff gets to everybody, whether
Sure.
you talk about it or not. And
Yeah.
and those things are definitely a consideration when you take the position, and you know what you're doing, you know what job you have, you know what you have to do. So I thought it was the right thing to keep
Right.
things moving. And I don't think it was, because that was definitely a time where, we all needed to be together. We all needed to share those things. She may have needed some help at home with things that I,
right.
was traveling and left her with. So
Yeah.
there's definitely an issue with that. I don't think she originally did, but I think it ended up being a problem for sure.
And so do you think that you take yourself into consideration more now than you did in your first marriage?
Well, yeah, I mean, but yes, I do. And to the point of making sure that I also consider you more in that, that situation.
Always consider me.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant. I just meant, I think you have to be happy with yourself as a human being
Yeah,
before you can make anybody else happy.
absolutely.
And I was very insecure in my mid-20s. I started gaining a lot of confidence. But
I was going to say, that sure doesn't seem like you now.
no, well, here's the thing. I mean, I was very confident as a young, like a child.
Mm-hmm.
My mom will tell you stories about how I wouldn't shut up and I would just talk to strangers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I reached those awkward teenage years, or I call them my fugly years. And so
I know what that stands for.
So like from age 12 to 16, I kind of became a bit more reclusive because in my mind, I was hideous. Oh, it's fine. Listen, I'm long over it. But, I mean, I was 12 years old. I was 5'9", which was, and I'm a girl.
It was different than anybody else in your class.
Oh my God.
Anybody in 3 classes probably.
In the entire school, I was the tallest one in the school.
Wow. Yeah.
And we switched schools in the 6th grade. So it was my last year at an elementary school. That's how it works here in the Chicagoland area and our particular suburb. 7th and 8th grade were junior highs, and then K through 6 were elementary. So we moved in that summer, and then when 6th grade started, I didn't know anybody at that school, and we were all standing outside waiting for the door to open after the bell rang. And one of the students behind me said, "Are you going to open the door?" Thinking I was the teacher. And I was like, "I'm not the teacher." And they were like, "Oh my God, you're so huge." So it just, that got to me right away,
Yeah, sure.
And then, let's add to that braces, glasses, acne, and really bad hair.
The trifecta.
Yeah. I was not attractive during those years. So I became more reclusive then. And then when I was 16, I started to blossom again and became more confident. But I think that took until my mid-20s to really gain the confidence that I have now and continue to project forward in this world. So I wasn't as confident in my first marriage in myself as I am now. So I think it was an issue. I don't know that I would say it's a big issue, but it was an issue in that if you're not entirely happy with yourself, how can you make somebody else happy?
Yeah.
And that's why I was asking you, do you take yourself into consideration? Because
Sure.
I obviously want you to be happy. And I want you to be happy with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think we both are.
I'm happy.
I just wanted to hear it from your mouth, is all. You're
If
looking at me like I'm
you've
crazy.
You've heard it before? That's why I'm looking at you crazy. You know that. But yeah, they don't. Okay.
I mean, I think there's, with my first marriage, we said I love you a lot. But there's a difference between saying I love you and feeling loved. And I definitely feel so loved from you. And I hope you feel the same.
Absolutely.
But I think that was another big issue is, my first marriage, and I will say this to any of the younger listeners that there are out there. Listen, I loved him, don't get me wrong, but there were definitely red flags. And I think in your 20s, you go, oh, I can fix that, especially as a girl.
Yeah.
Girls always think, I'm going to fix this problem with him and everything is going to be great. And that was just stupid. But that's how you think that's how I thought.
Yeah.
As a 20-something-year-old.
Well, I think from my perspective, I mean, there's always something that's not the perfect thing, and you try and fix that. But again, it always comes back, and I go back around all the time to changing yourself to make somebody happy. That's a mistake I made a number of times, and tried to be somebody different that they wanted to see.
Yeah,
and I'm not doing that ever again. And I knew that as soon as after the divorce. I'm like, I'm not getting to that situation. So, like when we met, you got the real me, and it's never been anything different. And I'm not a different person at work versus home versus something. But many people are, and that's okay if that's the way you operate. But for me, it just didn't work, and wouldn't work.
Yeah, I don't know that can work for anybody, to be honest. Like, I think you have to be your true, authentic self in all aspects of your life, or you're not going to be happy.
I agree, but to a point. I mean, there are some people that need to be stronger, more dominant at work, but don't want to have that responsibility or dominant at home. I'm sure there's some things that will pop up, and I don't know off the top of my head a career that's like that, but somebody's got to be a little bit stronger in the office or be a little bit meaner in the office because of the situation. You don't want to go home with that demeanor.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I work for myself because I don't play well. I don't play well with others.
Yes, you used to. It's that one time.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love people. I obviously love my husband. I love my family. I love my friends. I get along with just about anybody who doesn't cross me one way or the other. But I do have a problem reporting to others.
Well, yeah, you have an issue with that. I think you have an issue with people telling you what to do.
Yeah.
And you are confident in your knowledge of what you're doing. So it's like, I know what the hell I'm doing. Don't tell me what to do.
Right.
I know what to do.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're telling me what to do, my way was better. So,
right.
And
he's totally right about that. Which actually brings me to my next point, which is I think we complement each other really well.
I agree.
When I'm going a little nutso, you're the first to bring me back down to earth and be like, take a breath and just relax and think about whatever it is. And I can't say I do that with you because you're always so very level-headed. I think I've heard you yell once, like one time. And we've been together 14 years. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah.
I got it right.
Got it right for once.
Yeah. I love that about you. But how do you think I compliment you?
Well, I mean, I think you bring out kind of you bring the goofy side out of me a little bit too. I think that I can be totally relaxed with you and just like not have to worry about what you think if I make a stupid joke, from when I was 12 and a boy,
right?
And make some idiotic joke and you laugh at it and you chuckle at it and you just let me be me. And you definitely have also brought the professionalism out of me. And I hope my work's not listening, but when I first met you, I had a lot of issues going on with my divorce and just things that were bugging me and in my head, and I wasn't focused. So you bring the focus back to me, not only professionally, but personally for everything too. So you give me reason, you give me, the opportunity to be me, and you give me focus, which is amazing.
No. Thanks, baby.
Thank you.
# relationship goals.
There you go. Yeah. Right.
I mean, no relationship is perfect. And, we both know that we've got issues to work on. I don't know any marriage that doesn't have issues to work on. But we're aware of them and we talk about them and we try to, we do our best to fix them. And that's what makes it work for us. So I just want to end it there and say thank you very much for being my guest again today. And
I'm always here for you.
I know, baby. I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you would like to reach out to me about this show or any other, you can do so by emailing me at lifewithasherryontop@gmail.com. Again, that's lifewithasherryontop@gmail.com. And Cheri is spelled Cheri. Thanks, everybody. Good talking to you, and we'll talk again soon.
See you later.
Bye-bye.